What's up, fellow autism? I got my first phone when I was 11 years old. It was this very iPhone 3GS. Look at how cracked this back is now. This phone has seen better days, but I played a lot of games on this phone. And while the iPhone didn't introduce me to mobile gaming, that honor goes to Mama ENunn's flip phones, there's still a ton of iPhone games that I still have a bit of nostalgia for. So let's go down memory lane and check out some old iPhone games. Longtime viewers of the channel, aka none of you, might remember this video I did a couple years ago of me playing some old iPhone games, and if you want to check it out, it's up right there in the corner. But now I actually have a proper recording setup, so I can show you these games in its full glory. All games shown in this video are running on an iPhone 4 running iOS 5. It would have been a 4S, but the eBay listing lied to me. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's start out with a classic, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Whoa, wrong music. There we go. In 2010, Activision released Tony Hawk 2 on iOS. This was ported by LTI Grey Matter, who also ported Tony 2 to the PC. And as such, this is a port of the PC version. But it's not a 100% straight port from the original. There are some differences. Obviously, there's touch controls, which feel fine. They did a good job on emulating the original control scheme. There's also an option for tilt controls. Yeah, no. Almost everyone's outfits and deck graphics are different, partially due to the skaters having new sponsors. Multiplayer, Create a Park, and Create a Skater are missing for some reason, and that's a shame. I wonder why this is. Time constraints? Laziness? Nonsensical limitations? I don't know. Spider-Man's gone too, understandable but disappointing. Also, Chopper Drop and Skate Heaven are both missing. Or are they? I found this video on YouTube a long time ago showing a hack for Tony 2 on iOS, and it shows someone playing Chopper Drop. The hack got taken down about 12 years ago, so there's no way of accessing it. And according to this comment, the only way of hacking the game is by hex editing. So if anyone has any way of unlocking Chopper Drop and Skate Heaven on the iOS port of Tony 2, let me know. Thanks. Also, there's no FMV, so bye-bye Bell's Video and Bleeding Nutsack. One of the biggest downsides to the iOS port is the soundtrack. Instead of Guerrilla Radio by Rage Against the Machine, you get 7030 by the Lions Rampant. Instead of Blood Brothers by Papa Roach, you get The Alchemist by Nathan Zander. Instead of When Worlds Collide by Powerman 5000, you get Interested in Madness by Operatic. Oh hey, that song was in Thug 2. I understand why they had to change the soundtrack, but the new soundtrack is just not iconic enough. Even with all these downsides, it's still Tony Hawk 2 but with touch controls, and it's still great to play. There's better options for playing Tony Hawk on your phone, but if you got an old 32-bit iPhone laying around, definitely give it a try. I will note on iOS 7 through 10, the game will freeze on a white screen if you boot it up. So in order to play it, you'll need to jailbreak your phone and delete the opening FMV files with something like iFile. Or you can download a pre-patched IPA of the game with the intro movies removed. You know where to look for it. Once you get it up and running, it's smooth sailing from there. Next up, Clear Vision. Clear Vision is a stickman sniper game where you assassinate people. Oh my god. It's basically a game you'd probably see on Stick Page or Addicting Games, but on an iPhone. You play as Tyler, who quit his job as a cleaner because his boss is a dick. He tries to find jobs, but they all turn him down. I feel you, Tyler. So then he sees his sniper rifle and gets the wonderful idea to become a hitman. Remember, fellas, if you can't find a job, there's always being a hitman on the dark web. Or maybe stripping is a better option. So basically, you get requests, and you fulfill them by taking out whoever has the hit on them. Every time you take someone out, you'll get a screen with some stats and a corny punchline added in. You can read when you're dead. I must have slipped on the wrong buttons. Did he died? As the game goes on, you'll eventually get new weapons, which are required to progress because you'll be battling how far you are from the target and the wind. So you can't just shoot straight on. Sometimes you won't even use your sniper rifle. You'll be setting off car bombs, crushing a guy in a car, spiking some dude's coffee with a poison pill. It's a nice change up. The lack of music during gameplay kinda sucks though, and the game is really short. This took me about 45 minutes to complete both episodes. I wish it was longer, but there were 3 sequels made, and they were very popular back in the day. Overall, it's a bit entertaining, if not a tad boring in my opinion. If anyone knows where I can get my hands on a working copy of the sequels, let me know. Next up, Shaun White Snowboarding Origins. Shaun White Snowboarding is an okay snowboarding game starring everyone's favorite bisportual Shaun White.
I'm talking about Mountain Dews, baby.
It spawned a sequel for the Wii and a skateboarding spin-off, conveniently titled Shaun White Skateboarding, but there was also a mobile spin-off called Shaun White Snowboarding Origins. What are these origins they speak of? I don't know. So unfortunately, this game doesn't offer much. You get a couple characters you can play as, but not Shaun White, because you have to buy DLC to play as Shaun White in a Shaun White video game. Where have I seen that before? So all you can really do in this game is solo free ride, unless you can find the probably non-existent DLC. There's multiplayer, however, since the online servers were provided by the now defunct OpenFaint, only local multiplayer works, but good luck trying to find a buddy with an old iPhone. Anyways, there's 4 levels: Japan, Chile, Alaska, and Spain. You're basically just riding down a mountain, doing tricks, going through gates, all while jamming to a pretty decent soundtrack. I used to only play in Japan solely because of the song. Rodeo Massacre's same old story is a bop, and you can't convince me otherwise. The controls are okay, I guess, but you have to deal with the unholy monstrosity known as tilt controls. Gross. To ollie, you press this button over here, but you can hold it to get a speed boost. While you're in the air, you can spin and flip using this D-pad and do grab tricks by pressing these points on the V board. I'm trademarking that. Unfortunately, it feels a little unresponsive, and that might be because I sometimes miss the touch points, but you know, skill issue. Grinding is automatic and you balance by tilting. Overall, the game's alright, but if you hate tilt controls, you probably won't have a good time. Next up, Rayman 2. Rayman 2 is like the Doom of the Rayman series. If it exists, there's probably a port. Well, alright, it's not as plentiful as Doom, but there's a ton of versions of Rayman 2. N64, PC, PS1, PS2, Dreamcast, DS, 3DS, and iOS. The iOS port was published by Gameloft, who has probably published literally every mobile game in existence. Most of you probably know how this game goes, but to the new fellas, here's the lowdown. Evil robot pirates led by the Admiral Razorbeard invade Rayman's world and enslaves practically everybody. They shatter the world's central power, the heart of the world, into 1,000 yellow lumps. You, Rayman, gets captured while trying to fight these dudes off and gets thrown in jail. Your buddy Globox gets captured too, but he sneaks in a silver lum courtesy of your friend Lee the Fairy, giving you the ability to shoot balls from your fists. And now the great escape commences. Your goal is to kick Razorbeard's ass, all while trying to collect all 1,000 yellow lums and free those inhabiting cages scattered throughout the world. I'll save the in-depth retrospective for another video, but let's be real. This game is a masterpiece. Let's talk about the port itself. This was a port of the Dreamcast version, so it included all the audio, graphical, and aesthetic changes that were added to that port, which includes running at 60 FPS if you have an iPhone 4S or higher. However, there are a few differences. Touch controls for one, and they're alright. The opening slide section uses tilt controls, but not really, because you can still control Rayman via touch, albeit with an invisible joystick. Hey, welcome goof, Ubisoft. Doing combat is harder. Instead of pressing a button, you have to use your thumbs and pinch outward to lock onto an enemy. That's the easy part. The hard part is getting out of lock-on mode. You have to pitch inward to get out of it, and most of the time, it doesn't work. Otherwise, the controls are fine. Globox Village, which was a Dreamcast exclusive hub world that had some minigames, was removed, even though the ledge leading to it and the hint stone are still there. The knowledge of the world, originally accessed by holding down a button, is now in the help section, and all the information is given to you from the start. So collecting all the yellow lums to gain knowledge is completely pointless. The bonus stages are also removed, which honestly is kind of a relief because I do not see a way of porting this unholy monstrosity to a touchscreen. Also, for some reason, Lee looks like she's getting a little older. There's also some audio bugs, like songs not looping properly or playing at awkward times, but despite all this, it's a faithful port. It's not the best way to play Rayman 2 on the go, but it gets the job done. Next up, Skater Nation. Another skateboarding game, also published by Gameloft. You know me, I love me some skateboarding games, but this one kinda sucks, unfortunately. The game starts out with a nice opening FMV of some dudes doing the skateboard thing. You then pick a game mode, your skater, a deck, and then you're dropped into the huge open world of Sandyfornia, the world capital of skateboarding? I don't know about that. Skater Nation has put on a contest that consists of you skating around the map and doing some challenges. The open world is designed quite well. There's also some interiors that you can enter too, and that's a nice touch. The soundtrack is alright, it's not licensed, and I assume they were all made solely for the game. They sound like they belong in a mid-2000s MTV reality show. What's not nice are the controls. The V-stick is terrible. You can barely turn, especially while pushing, and the buttons have a delay to them, making some challenges much more difficult than they should be. What's wrong with emulating Tony Hawk's controls? Nothing. Comboing is pretty easy once you get the controls down. You're basically just spamming grinds and flip tricks. Balancing can be done by tilting or by using the stick, but tilting is a lot easier. Your stats by default are so nerfed, you go really slow. I don't think you can increase your stats, unfortunately, so the only way of doing better is by upgrading your deck. And because of this, I can't complete this one goal and where you drop into a mega ramp, grind this rail, and then get 500 points from going off the quarter pipe. Like, holy shit, this feels almost impossible. I was able to grind this rail once, but I fucked up and accidentally did a flip trick instead of getting some air, so it didn't count. Nice. Do yourself a favor and pick up Tony Hawk instead. Next up, N.O.V.A, Near Orbit Vanguard Alliance. This is a game I never really played back then, but damn, I can't believe I missed out on this. This game is basically a Halo clone, and that's not a bad thing by any means, but Halo was obviously a big inspiration for this game. You play as Captain Cal Warden, kidnapped and forced into a suit so he can go kick some alien ass. Kinky. This game is an FPS, and honestly, it feels quite nice to control. You move around with the joystick and you aim by dragging your finger across the screen. I know it's technically the standard FPS controls on an iPhone, but it still feels nice. There's an auto-aim system that does help out a lot, but I feel like it doesn't stick well whenever your enemy is moving around. The levels are beautiful, at least the outdoor ones I played, but damn, that frame rate is brutal. If I had a 4S, this game would probably run at a mostly locked 60 FPS, but no! Thank you, eBay seller, for lying to me. Scattered throughout the levels are boxes that you can hack by moving light. Not gonna lie, I kind of expected this to be like how a Linux user installs Google Chrome. Kinda disappointing. Some of these are a piece of cake, but there are others that make me say, how the hell is this even possible? Like, look at this. How? And I bet the hardcore N.O.V.A fans watching this video are like, skill issue, and they're right. Despite all this is probably one of the best first-person shooters on the iPhone. I mean the old iPhone. Next up, Tiger Woods PGA Tour 12. I love the Tiger Woods series, especially 2005. That shit's the GOAT. However, since hopping on the PS3 and 360 train, all of that energy and vibe that the PS2 games had were just gone. And unfortunately, Tiger Woods PGA Tour 12 on iOS continues that tradition. At its core, it's, well, golf. A boring sport that is made even more boring by this game and every Tiger Woods game since Gen 7, but it's not bad. This game is actually an enhanced port of the DS version of Tiger Woods PGA Tour 08, so if you played that game, you'll probably know how the iOS version works. To swing, you drag down, then up, just like how you'd swing an actual club. The controls are basically the same as Tiger 08 on the DS, but just a bit more crunched. Putting is not like the old PS2 games at all. Sure, it gives you a caddy tip like those games, but in terms of verticality, it's useless because you can putt with full power and overshoot it. It's a lot harder than the console versions, but, you know, skill issue, I guess. So I was recording some more gameplay after I recorded my VO, and I figured out something. The clubs are nerfed. I'm sorry, but Tiger Woods, 210 yards with a driver? Are you shitting me? And because of this nerfing, some shots are literally impossible to make. I could have easily gotten this shot on the green in the PS2 games, but here, I just keep going in the water. What kind of bullshit is this? Anyways, back to my thoughts. There is some commentary from CBS's Jim Nantz.
They've made a good attempt so far, but have a few pieces left to fix from that spot.
And the legend David Faraday.
Well, if you're going to hit it on that line, you need to hit it harder. This is gonna be short, well short.
Tiger himself also gives you tips from time to time.
We've got a tight lie and there's not much to work with here. It's not gonna be an easy shot, so just focus and take a good swing.
But most of the time, the commentary gets drowned out by other noises. Overall, it's not a bad game by any means, but if you really want a true Tiger Woods experience, play the PS2 games. Next up, Gangstar, West Coast Hustle. Gangstar is a long-running series dating back to 2006's Gangstar Crime City. But starting with 2009's West Coast Hustle, the series became more like a GTA clone than earlier titles with the leap to 3D. According to Wikipedia, this is just a 3D remake of 2008's Gangstar 2 Kings of LA. I've never played that game, so I can't confirm. Anyway, you play as Pedro, aka P-Thug. P-Thug. You know you're a gangster if your name is P-Thug. So yeah, this game screams 2009. Anyways, you and your friend Juan escaped from Mexico after they did a bank robbery and now they're roaming the streets of LA. If you play GTA, you know what you'll be getting into. You do various missions ranging from spying on rival gang members to shooting said rival gang members to driving to X destination. It's your standard GTA fare, just a bit crappier and on a mobile phone. The controls are alright. Like N.O.V.A, there's an auto-aim function, but it's a little clunky. The driving controls are also pretty clunky. I chose to steer with the V wheel. I'm trademarking that too. And unfortunately, it feels off. You really have to push it all the way to the left or right to turn. The graphics are alright, a little blocky, but that's expected for a game that came out when the iPhone 3GS was new. A funny thing is that while you're driving, you can phase through every light post, tree, and pole you see. Very realistic, Gameloft. There's also radio stations with commercials.
Tired of being original? Want to look like everyone else? Come to Sophie and Sill's clothing store. We offer the most commercial, not at all exclusive, overpriced selection for both men and women in one style and only 2 sizes. Over fat and extra skinny.
Nice touch. There's no voice acted cutscenes, so be prepared to do a lot of reading. There's occasional voice lines from pedestrians and P-Thug himself.
Sorry.
Just like GTA, there's a wanted system. If you start killing randos or whenever the game feels like it, you'll get a wanted level. More stars means the harder the cops will try to take you down. If you get busted, you lose all your weapons, unless you have the cash to bribe the cops. Overall, it's a decent GTA clone that spawned halfway decent sequels.
I am the law.
Next up, Mike V Do or Die. Another skateboarding game. This one was developed by Rat Rod Studio, who you may know as the original developers of the Skateboard Party series, which birthed the absolutely abhorrent Tony Hawk's Skate Jam, now just called Skate Jam. And wouldn't you know it, this game is the precursor to that series. Did Rat Rod knock it out of the park? No, it's terrible. Look, I know this was their first skateboarding game and I can't knock them too hard for it, but man, this game just sucks. The game looks fine, the levels are halfway decent, and the soundtrack is okay, but the biggest problem and the biggest deal breaker to Mike V Do or Die is the controls. If you're used to Skateboard Party's clunky and unresponsive controls, oh boy, you're in for a treat. You push by dragging your finger down the left side of the screen, you turn and spin by tilting your phone, and you do tricks by swiping on this tiny, barely functional, unresponsive V-board. Most of the time, you try to do a trick and something else happens, or nothing happens at all. What's wrong with traditional button controls? As much as I dislike Skateboard Party, I will give it this. The controls are much more pleasing. You don't have to deal with tilting that much, only when balancing grinds and manuals. The wonky and floaty physics don't help much either. Skating half-pipes is basically impossible. You can't get speed, which means you can't get air. Also, there were some questionable decisions that Rad Rod made. For example, in the free skate mode, you have to select the level you want to skate at and then drive to that location. Let me say that again. You have to drive to your destination. Why? It doesn't make sense. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'd rather play Skateboard Party than this. Good on you, Rat Ruff, for changing the game for the better. And finally, Spectacualtor. Let's end this video off with an emulator. Back when I had my 3GS, I was desperate to get an emulator. Like, unhealthily desperate.
Hey everybody, to all those jailbreakers out there, do not jailbreak your phone. If you already jailbreak your phone, then screw you. Not trying to be mean.
But at the end of the day, it was kind of moot because the performance would have been terrible. Apple obviously didn't allow emulators on the App Store except one, Spectacualtor, a ZX Spectrum emulator. Yes, it's ZX, not ZX. The ZX Spectrum is an 8-bit home computer that was released in the UK back in 1982. So yeah, it's British. Gross. Spectacualtor is developed by Jonathan Needle and is available on Windows, Android, and iOS as a paid emulator with a 30-day free trial. A paid emulator. I think I'm gonna vomit. But look, I heard this is the best ZX Spectrum emulator, so I guess you probably aren't wasting your money on a good product. Anyway, the emulator, at least this old iOS version, actually comes with 22 games and 2 programming programs. You can't load your own ROMs, but you can buy more games from a built-in store, which still works in 2023. I'm not gonna waste $2 on a game that I can download for free off archive.org, but if anyone wants to try it, go right ahead. When you boot up a game, you're greeted by on-screen touch controls, a nice joystick, and a button or 2 or 3 depending on the game. Some games are keyboard only, so you also get a faithfully recreated on-screen keyboard. They both get the job done. Now then, let's talk about loading games. There's 2 options to load a game. There's the correct option, fast play, which jumps you straight into the game, and load, the quote-unquote authentic option. Because most games were stored on cassette tapes, players back in the day had to deal with this.
What? What?
A few moments later.
What kind of man stops fucking pussy so he can go fuck another man in the ass?
Who said I'm doing the fucking?
Many hours later.
What?
Why? So yeah, unless you have a boner for authenticity, just go with fast play. As I said before, there are 22 games that come preloaded, plus 2 programming languages, 128K and 48K basic. I don't know how this works, I'm not a programmer. I'm not gonna play through all the games that come with the emulator, but here's the ones that I attempted to play. Albatrosity is a golf game. Your ball can change to different types, a sticky ball and a hard ball. Your goal is to get the ball into the hole in as little strokes as possible, just like real golf. Dynamite Dan, you walk around trying to avoid weird objects, and I guess you try to visit as many levels as possible. You can't really shoot anybody, all you can do is jump. I'm really confused. In Fantastic Mr. Fruity, you're in a Pac-Man-like stage and you try not to touch cherries and star balls. I don't get it. In Highway Encounter, you play as an alien robot thing that's straight out of Doctor Who. You shoot weird alien dildos and something happens, I guess. In Revolution, you control a ball. And that's it. Overall, I'm confused on what 99% of these games do, but I guess this is what happens when you don't read a manual. But, you know, fuck reading. Anyways, the emulation is fine, I guess. I don't got any complaints. I just wish I wasn't a stupid American trying to comprehend games that are very British. And there you go, some old iOS games for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a bit of nostalgia out of this. And of course, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. If you did, give this video a like. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Got any feedback? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Join my Discord server and follow the socials in the links below. And if you're interested in old and new school G4 Tech TV or other VHS goodies, check out my other channels, ENunn and ENunn 2. Also, check out Ivan's review of Pepsi Man, an ENunnGaming video without me. Yeah, I didn't think that through. Have a happy new year, everybody, and I'll see you in 2024. Bye.